Thanks for watching. Drop a comment and let me know where you're tuning in from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. A gentle hush falls as a lone candle flickers in the fog. In this dim light, I welcome you to a quiet corner of Yharnam's dream. Breathe softly and feel the weight of the long hunt lift from your shoulders. You're safe here, hunter. In this sanctuary of soft whispers and ancient secrets, even the beasts outside seem a world away. Let the echoes of Yharnam's past guide you into tranquility. Tonight, by the glow of the lantern, we will journey together through shadowed streets and hidden memories. We'll trace the lore of Bloodborne from the rise and fall of Yharnam to its cosmic gods and cursed hunters. The tales will be told softly like a bedtime story spoken under a pale moon. Allow each whispered word to paint the scene around you. The grand cathedral ward under candlelight, the forbidden college by a lake, and the endless night of the hunt. Our voyage begins where the nightmare was born, in blood and dreams, in the city of Yharnam itself. Close your eyes now and listen as the story of the hunter unfolds. Part 1. The Fall of Yharnam. In the heart of Yharnam, blood was sacred. The city became famed for its miraculous blood ministrations, healing blood treatments said to cure any ailment. Long ago, scholars of Byrgenwerth uncovered an old blood deep in ancient labyrinths beneath Yharnam. Master Willem, the head of that college, realized this old blood was powerful yet perilous. We are born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood. Our eyes are yet to open. Fear the old blood, he warned his students. But one pupil, Lawrence, disagreed. To Lawrence, the old blood was a gift, a divine remedy for humanity's frailty. Unable to sway his mentor, Lawrence left Byrgenwerth and journeyed to Yharnam, determined to share this miracle with the world. Lawrence founded the Healing Church in Yharnam, a new faith centered on blood ministration. He and his fellows, including Gehrman and others, brought the old blood to the masses, offering healing to any who would partake. Sick and suffering travelers flocked to Yharnam for a taste of this panacea. Blood ministrations did cure illness and grant vigor, and under the church's auspices, Yharnam flourished. In grand cathedrals, ministers offered communion of blood to the faithful. They recited in hushed, reverent voices, "Our thirst for blood satiates us, soothes our fears. Seek the old blood, but beware the frailty of men." The dark irony of that prayer would soon unfold. Yharnam citizens, soothed and addicted to the church's blood, failed to heed the caution in the ritual words. For the very blood that made them feel safe would bring about their ruin. At first, the old blood's boon seemed endless, a golden age for Yharnam under the Healing Church, but Master Willem's fears proved true. The old blood was not a simple medicine. It was tainted with an eldritch corruption. In time, the healing blood began to reveal a dreadful side effect. It spawned a plague. Patients given transfusions grew unnaturally strong and aggressive, and some transformed into nightmarish beasts. An insidious scourge of the beast took hold of Yharnam's streets. The very cure that made the city great now cursed it. The blood that could cure any disease made Yharnam extremely wealthy and powerful, but Willem was proven right in the end when the blood was found to be infected, afflicting the entire city with the plague of beasts, with Lawrence himself falling victim to it. Night by night, more Yharnamites succumbed to beastly hunger, prowling alleys as wolf-like scourge beasts. The line between man and monster blurred under the pale moon. Desperate to stem the contagion, the healing church took extreme measures. One early outbreak centered in Old Yharnam, a district that became overrun by beasts. Rather than let the sickness spread, church authorities ordered Old Yharnam to be put to the flame. Hunters and powder keg mercenaries swept through with fire and steel, burning entire city blocks. The ancient valley town was sacrificed in a single moonlit night. Its ruins, charred and ash-choked, were sealed away and declared forbidden ground. The surviving citizens of Yharnam could only listen in horror to the howls that echoed from the smoldering valley below. This brutal purge was hidden behind pious justifications, a cleansing to contain the beast plague. Yet some whispered that the church had known the blood's dangers from the start. There were even rumors that the church is directly responsible for the ashen blood sickness that ravaged Old Yharnam. The disease originated from a corrupted water supply and was the catalyst for the beast scourge. The church conveniently arrived with the old blood cure, earning the town's trust. Whether by folly or design, Yharnam's healing church had unleashed a nightmare. Within the grand cathedral ward, Lawrence, the first vicar of the healing church, tried to maintain control as the plague intensified, but ultimately Lawrence himself could not escape the fate he'd brought upon the city. The once pious vicar transformed into a monstrous cleric beast, the first of his kind. Clergymen of the church, bloated with old blood, were especially susceptible to grotesque mutations. Lawrence's mindless beast form had to be put down by his former comrades, his broken body left to burn in a staked pyre. It was a grim omen. Yharnam's highest leader had become the very thing he urged others to hunt. What followed was a spiral into madness and despair. The bridges and squares ran slick with blood as nightly hunts were declared, sanctioned massacres to rid the streets of beasts. Ordinary Yharnam citizens barricaded their homes against neighbors turned fiends. Incense and ointments were used to ward off beasts as the cries of victims echoed through the midnight air. Yharnam, once a beacon of hope, became a haunted city where nights brought only death. Yet even as the populace cowered, certain souls rose to fight the darkness. These men and women, the hunters, took up arms to combat the beastly threat. They believed they could end the horror by sheer will and skill. But as the hunts went on, some began to question, was the scourge truly an illness to be cured by bloodshed, or a curse rooted deeper in Yharnam's very soul? The night grew long, and the line separating savior from sinner blurred. Still, you are safe here, hunter. The darkest chapter of Yharnam's fall has been told, and we shall now slip further back to secrets older and higher than any church, to the cosmic forces that lurked behind the blood. Part 2. The Great Ones and the Cosmos. Before the healing church and the scourge, there was Byrgenwerth, an old academy by a quiet lake. It was here that Master Willem and his scholars sought the eldritch truth, delving into ancient tombs beneath Yharnam. In those dark catacombs, they unearthed astonishing discoveries, the old blood and evidence of mysterious beings known as the Great Ones. Willem realized these Great Ones were inhuman, godlike entities, dwellers of a higher plane, beings of the cosmos beyond human ken. The Great Ones were as ancient gods to the people of Yharnam, and their blood was the very old blood that could elevate or damn humanity. Provost Willem, cautious and wise, insisted that mankind's evolution must come not through beastly blood, but through the mind. We are thinking on the basest of planes. What we need are more eyes, he used to say, urging his pupils to seek enlightenment through insight, through the awakening of eyes inside the brain. To Willem, the path to ascension lay in understanding the cosmos, not in transfusing its blood. He forbade the use of the old blood, coining the mantra, "Fear the old blood," to remind Byrgenwerth of its dangers. Not all scholars heeded him. Lawrence's schism to use the blood has already been told. That was one path, ending in the Scourge. But others at Byrgenwerth and beyond took a different path, communion with the Great Ones themselves. As Yharnam writhed under the blood plague, the upper echelons of the healing church formed a secret sect known as the Choir. These were the most erudite clergy, many former Byrgenwerth scholars who still sought transcendence through knowledge rather than brute blood. The Choir made remarkable breakthroughs in understanding the cosmic side of the blood. They uncovered a holy chalice leading to a long-abandoned Great One named Ebrietas, daughter of the cosmos, slumbering deep beneath the grand cathedral. Ebrietas was a left-behind Great One, an orphaned alien god that the church could actually approach and study. By communing with Ebrietas, the Choir believed they could elevate humanity's mind and unlock new eyes of insight. In their eyes, open and inside, the old blood's failure only proved Willem's point. Humanity wasn't ready to evolve physically without first evolving mentally. And so, under the waxen gaze of a cosmic god, the Choir pursued ascension through insight. Within the cathedral ward's upper reaches, the Choir established an orphanage not for benevolence, but for experimentation. They gathered Yharnam's orphans and unwitting patients, using them as vessels to grow eyes on the inside. Deep in the orphanage and its connected research hall, strange, gruesome trials were conducted to expand the human mind. Under gardens of pale lumen flowers, the church tried to create kin beings closer to the Great Ones in nature. Many human test subjects perished or were transformed into misshapen celestial creatures with bulbous heads and vacant stares, their brains riddled with eyes. In time, the Choir's efforts bore fruit of a sort. They cultivated a small Great One, the celestial emissary, born from the lumen flower garden as a beacon to commune with Ebrietas. The orphanage became both a think tank for extraordinary young minds and a secret laboratory where those minds and bodies were altered in pursuit of higher understanding. If the healing church's main ranks sought literal blood healing, the Choir sought a more metaphysical cure, the evolution of human consciousness. They continued the work Master Willem began at Byrgenwerth, peering ever deeper into the cosmos that they believed lay just above our heads. Here we stand, feet planted in the earth, but might the cosmos be very near us, only just above our heads, they whispered, gazing at the stars. Not all within the church agreed on methods. A separate branch, the School of Menses, broke away to pursue more arcane rituals. We will speak of them soon. The Choir and Menses had the same goal, contacting Great Ones, but their rivalry ran deep. Despite these fractures, the healing church's leadership remained fixated on the Great Ones. Who were these sublime beings? The scholars knew that Great Ones existed beyond the physical plane, perhaps watching from the night sky or from alien dreams. They learn that only by gaining insight, a special kind of wisdom or clairvoyance, could a person perceive the Great Ones at all. Indeed, the more insight one gained through exposure to arcane knowledge or the blood of Great Ones, the more one's eyes opened to see hidden realities. In Yharnam, those with high insight claim to see massive eldritch creatures, spider-like amygdala, clinging to the spires of Cathedral Ward, invisible to ordinary eyes. The very fabric of reality was thin in Yharnam, worn by the meddling of humans with powers they didn't fully grasp. Through forbidden rituals, humans managed to converse with or even beckon Great Ones, but these contacts were perilous to sanity. Byrgenwerth's own fate was a cautionary tale. Master Willem eventually succeeded in communicating with a Great One with Rom's help, but the truth he gleaned left Byrgenwerth ruined and desolate. One scholar, Rom, the vacuous spider, was a Byrgenwerth student who ascended to kinship with Kos's power and grew eyes on the inside. In doing so, Rom dumbed herself down, vacuous, to act as a living bulwark, hiding the full horror of the Great Ones from unready minds. This selfless ascension kept certain nightmares at bay. For a time, amid these cosmic intrigues, a poignant truth emerged. Every Great One had a yearning. Despite their unfathomable power, they could not easily reproduce. Great Ones lost their offspring. Every Great One's child was doomed to die or never be born, leaving them longing for a surrogate. This tragic law of the cosmos is whispered in item lore. Every Great One loses its child and then yearns for a surrogate. And Udun, the formless Great One, is no different. The Great Ones, unable to bear healthy young, sought to create children through humans or adopt infants of superior make. Yharnam's Thumerian queen, Yharnam, was one such surrogate, groomed by the formless Great One, Odin, to carry a child, the infant Murgo. In other cases, the Great Ones would bless a human womb to create a special child, as happened with Yharnam's citizens like Ariana. Orphaned Great Ones like Abriatus desperately accepted human worship, while others like Kos drifted lifelessly ashore, only to have their orphan cry out for a foster parent. All of these cosmic tragedies fed into Yharnam's nightmare. The healing church, perhaps unknowingly, became entwined in the Great One's search for offspring. The old blood itself might have been the bait-corrupted blood that began this eldritch liaison between humans and Great Ones. With each encounter, humanity's insight grew, but so did its madness. The line from the choir's scripture holds true. The cosmos was near us, just above our heads. As we continue, we'll see how those lofty cosmic forces entwined with the hunter's very curse. For when the Great Ones involve themselves in our world, the hunt is never far behind. Part 3. The Hunt. On nights of the hunt, Yharnam streets run red under an eerie moon. The great cathedral's bell tolls softly, and a misty pale moon rises high, signaling that the evening of bloodletting has begun. Doors and windows shutter up tight, barred by fearful residents. Lanterns flicker in the deserted plazas, illuminating claw marks and scattered incense. From the distant darkness comes an inhuman roar, a once human beast now prowling for prey. But there is another sound, cutting through the silence, the deliberate footsteps of hunters. Clad in tainted leathers and wielding trick weapons, the hunters emerge to stalk the beasts that plague the city. This is the nightly hunt, part purge, part ritual, and you, dear hunter, are one of its chosen. the origin of the hunters can be traced back to the very first outbreak of the Scourge. Gehrman, the first hunter, was a simple man who took notice when his fellow Yharnamites began turning into beasts. With a craftsman's ingenuity, Gehrman modified his tools into deadly weapons, saws that split into cleavers, canes that snapped into whips, and set out to slay the beasts threatening his town. Bloodborne.fandom.com. He hunted with deadly grace, quickly earning renown as a pioneer of beast hunting. Gehrman also became a mentor, teaching others the art of the hunt. One of his prized apprentices was Lady Maria, a brave huntress from Cainhurst, whom Gehrman adored like a daughter, perhaps more than he should. Together in a hidden workshop, Gehrman and his allies developed the Hunter's Workshop, forging weapons and strategies to combat every nightmare that crawled from man's shadow. These first hunters were not part of any church or army. They were craftsmen, survivors, everyday people with extraordinary resolve who refused to let humanity be devoured by its own evil. As the beast plague intensified, the healing church eventually created its own sanctioned corps of hunters. Lawrence and his clergy recognized that swords and guns were as needed as prayers. They appointed Ludwig, a devout but blood-hungry warrior, as the first church hunter, and gave him command to hunt in the church's name. Under Ludwig's zealous leadership, many church members, priests, nuns, physicians took up arms, transforming into holy hunters to defend Yharnam. The church even established a healing church workshop to rival Gehrman's old one, mass-producing unique weaponry and hunter garb for its growing militia. Soon, hunting became institutionalized. To the ordinary citizens, the church and the hunt were one and the same. The hunters were seen as righteous guardians doing the work of the healing church. Gehrman's small, aging workshop in the woods fell out of use, overshadowed by Ludwig's more militant approach. And yet, despite their differences, all hunters shared a grim common purpose: to purge the beast scourge by sundown, or die trying. But hunting the beast exacts a terrible cost on the human soul. As the nights dragged on, many hunters began to succumb to a peculiar intoxication. They grew blood drunk, intoxicated by the visceral thrill of the hunt and the frequent blood transfusions they relied upon to keep fighting. This bloodlust eroded their humanity, driving them mad and even turning some into the very beasts they hunted. The healing church's records speak of this dark cycle. Hunters would later become blood drunk and transform into even more inhuman beasts. This unending cycle ultimately resulted in the destruction of Yharnam. Indeed, the hunt was a curse as much as a duty. The more zealously one hunted, the more one risked losing themselves to the beast within. The evidence lies silent in the hunter's cemetery of the workshop, where countless graves stand in memory of hunters who went astray. In the words of a wistful doll who tends those graves, over time, countless hunters have visited this dream. The graves here stand in their memory. It all seems so long ago now. Many headstones bear no name, only the hunter's tool or sword, the sole legacy of a life spent in endless night. And yet, each new evening, new hunters take the oath and step into the fray, convinced that this night they will be the one to end the horror. Central to the hunter's endurance through these eternal nights is a strange dream sanctuary, the hunter's dream. It is said that on the verge of death, a hunter may awaken in a mystical workshop bathed in moonlight, suspended outside the bonds of reality. This peaceful dream realm is a refuge created by an unknown power where hunters cannot truly die. Here, an old acquaintance waits in a chair by the warmth of a lantern. Gehrman, the first hunter, now an aged, weary host, bound to this dream. Long ago, in desperation and grief, Gehrman entered a contract with a great one to gain the strength to fight the plague. The result was the hunter's dream, an enchanted domain forged by the Great One's will. In this dream, Gehrman is both guide and prisoner. He greets each new hunter soul that is drawn there, including you, offering cryptic advice and gentle encouragement. This was once a safe haven for hunters. You're welcome to use whatever you find, even the doll, should it please you, Gehrman says with a sad smile. At Gehrman's side stands the plain doll, a life-size doll of a graceful woman in a white gown. By some animating miracle, this doll is alive, at least in spirit, within the dream. She tends to hunters' needs, channeling the blood echoes of slain beasts to make hunters stronger. With a soft voice and kind demeanor, the doll offers comfort to those weary from battle. It is whispered that Gehrman himself crafted her in the image of his lost apprentice, Lady Maria, hoping to soothe his loneliness. Yet even the doll's gentle presence cannot fully ease Gehrman's torment. The old hunter is chained to the dream by the very Great One he bargained with, a Great One that lurks unseen, governing the hunt's cruel design. That Great One is known as the Moon Presence, or simply the Pale Moon. This enigmatic deity, beckoned by Lawrence and Gehrman long ago, is the hidden orchestrator of the hunter's dream, and perhaps of the hunt itself. The Moon Presence, affectionately called Flora by the doll, spun the hunter's dream as a spider builds a web, an intricate trap to ensnare a hunter's spirit and use it for its own ends. Gehrman was the first caught in this web. The Moon Presence had bound Gehrman to the hunter's dream, an outlet used by the Moon Presence to further its own desires, say the old notes. What are those desires? Some speculate the Moon Presence is driven to eliminate other Great Ones and halt the plague of beasts, using hunters as its instruments. Others believe it simply feeds on the hunter's endeavors, perpetuating the cycle for its unfathomable reasons. Whatever the truth, the Moon Presence is the dark patron behind the hunt. Each time a hunter dies and wakes anew at the dream's lamp, each time a beast's soul returns to the hunter's mark, the Moon Presence's will is in motion. It granted Gehrman and his successors unending nights to slay the unholy and to attempt the unreachable dawn. Thus, the hunt became a looping curse, sunset to sunrise, a sunrise that would not come. The hunter's slog continued. Only by severing the Moon Presence's influence could the eternal night be broken, a feat no hunter had yet accomplished. Instead, when a hunter grew too exhausted or horrified by the endless carnage, Gehrman would offer them mercy, a release from the dream, and return to the waking world, albeit at the cost of their life. The headstones in the dream garden mark each hunter that Gehrman freed with his merciful scythe over the long years. As he drifts into fitful sleep, Gehrman himself often whimpers in his nightmare, begging, "Oh, Lawrence, Master Willem, someone please free me from this dream." The first hunter has guided countless successors through the hunt, hoping one might succeed where he could not. But the hunt persisted night after night, an unending requiem of blood and moonlight. Still, dear hunter, do not despair. The night may seem endless, but all nights, even the darkest, must give way to dawn. Our whispered journey now turns to the darkest secrets and hidden places that lie between night and day, where the truth awaits buried in silence. Part 4. Forgotten Places. Not every horror of Yharnam played out on its main streets. Many of the city's darkest sins were locked away in hidden corners, far from prying eyes. We will visit a few of these forgotten places now, in soft recollection, to understand the full tapestry of the hunter's world. Each locale carries whispers of unspoken sins and buried truths, tragedies caused or concealed by those in power. Tread lightly, good hunter, as we explore these ghostly domains. Cainhurst Castle lies far to the east of Yharnam, beyond frozen lakes and mountain mist. It was once a magnificent seat of nobles, an ancient line of aristocrats known as the Vile Bloods. In Cainhurst's prime, its courtiers partook of a different strain of blood, one said to grant unnaturally long life and vampiric charms. This isolated bloodline might have remained a curious footnote in history had the healing church not intervened. Shortly after Lawrence's discovery of old blood, a Byrgenwerth trader snuck some of that forbidden blood to Cainhurst's queen. The nobles of Cainhurst, ever eager for new vanities, drank of this old blood, and in doing so earned the church's wrath. Angered by this act, the healing church claimed the Vile Bloods had defiled the purity of blood healing and become fiendish, bloodthirsty creatures, the records say. The Vile Bloods were branded heretics, an enemy faction to be exterminated. The church dispatched a band of fanatic hunters known as the Executioners, led by Master Logarius, to invade Cainhurst Castle. In a bloody assault that few lived to recall, Logarius's executioners stormed the winter castle. They butchered the Vile Blood nobles without mercy, men, women, and kin servants alike. The halls that once echoed with courtly laughter ran red with noble blood. By the battle's end, Cainhurst was a grave. Only Queen Annalise, the immortal queen of the Vile Bloods, survived the purge, for true Vile Bloods cannot die so easily. Logarius, unable to kill the undying queen, chose instead to imprison her for eternity. He sealed Annalise away in an iron mask deep in her tower and appointed himself her warden, transfixing himself on her throne as a watchful martyr. To ensure Cainhurst's blasphemous legacy was forgotten, the church destroyed the only road leading there and struck the castle's location from maps. Snow eventually buried the abandoned path, and Cainhurst faded into myth, a cursed and forgotten castle, its immense library and blood-stained feasting halls left to dust and phantoms. Yet the queen remains within, undying and alone, quietly dreaming of the day a hunter might find her and carry on the Vile Blood's bloodline. If you listen carefully, you might hear her soft sob or faint laughter echo off the frost-covered gargoyles. Cainhurst's fall, hidden from history, was a crime of pride and hypocrisy, the healing church proving as bloodthirsty as those it condemned. Our next destination lies not in the waking world, but in a nightmare created by human arrogance. The nightmare of Mensis is a horrific dream realm where the school of Mensis's foul experiments converged. The school of Mensis, recall, was a faction of scholars once allied with the choir who sought communion with the great ones through extreme means. Their base in the unseen village of Yahargul became a place of dark rituals. There, Unseen by Yharnam at large, Mensis scholars performed human sacrifices and occult ceremonies, abducting citizens to use as ingredients for their rites. Their ultimate goal was to call forth a Great One into the world. Under the leadership of Mikolash, host of the Nightmare, the School of Mensis enacted a dread rite known as the Mensis Ritual. They obtained a special third umbilical cord, a relic from a Great One's child, and used it to beckon the presence of an infant Great One named Murgo. The ritual succeeded in a catastrophic way. A blood-red moon descended upon Yharnam, its color the deep crimson of a placenta. Under this blood moon, the boundary between reality and nightmare shattered. In Yahargul, Mensis's ritual slaughter reached a crescendo. The street gutters, clogged with the innards of their victims, offered to Murgo. Across town, old Yharnam's ruins suddenly ignited. Some say the church set that fire then, in a panicked attempt to contain the outbreaks. The blood moon's baleful light caused beastly transformations to accelerate and spread, a night of unbridled madness. Sensing the growing nightmare, Gehrman and likely Lawrence too mobilized hunters to stop the Mensis scholars, but they were too late. In the moment of the ritual, Mikolash and his top acolytes cast off their mortal coil, essentially killing themselves, and projected their minds into the nightmare realm in order to commune with Murgo. Their consciousnesses were pulled into a twisted dream dimension, the nightmare of Mensis, leaving their physical bodies as withered corpses in Yahargul. The ritual's side effect was gruesome. All the Mensis scholars' brains were stillborn. Their attempt to ascend resulted in folly, and none of them returned alive. Only Mikolash's spirit survived within the nightmare, half mad and eternally hosting that frightful domain. The nightmare of Mensis is a harrowing landscape formed by the collective madness of those scholars. Towering over it is Murgo's presence, a baby's wail that pierces the fog. Murgo, the Great One infant the scholars sought, never manifests physically except as the cry of a newborn and the looming figure of its spectral wet nurse. This hooded, multi-armed wet nurse guards Murgo in the nightmare, slaying any intruders to ensure the infant Great One never knows suffering. Trapped in this nightmare, Mikolash wanders in a bloody cage, babbling his deranged prayers. O Cosmos, O Kos, or some say Cosm, grant us eyes, grant us eyes. He is forever appealing to an unhearing Great One, reliving the moment of his ambition over and over. Outside the unseen village of Yahargul lies an eerie silence, littered with the remains of Mensis's failed ritual, petrified corpses fused into grotesque statues, and the amygdala Great Ones now visibly clinging to buildings after the blood moon's revelation. The sun will never rise over Yahargul so long as Murgo's cry continues. In the main game's climax, a brave hunter, perhaps one much like you, ventures into the nightmare of Mensis. There, they dispatch Mikolash to release him from his lunacy and confront Murgo's wet nurse in a final otherworldly duel. When the dark wet nurse is finally defeated, the infant's cry fades into an ominous silence. High above, the blood moon softens to a pale dawn. Queen Yharnam's spirit, the ancient Thumerian mother of Murgo, appears and bows in gratitude, tears of blood streaking her face. The Mensis nightmare collapses, its purpose spent. The last Great One's curse on Yharnam has been quieted. For now, the School of Mensis paid the price for their hubris. An entire village damned, and a cadre of enlightened scholars left to rot in a hell of their own making. This, too, was hidden from common folk, written off as simply another scourge-afflicted district. But we now know the truth of the Mensis atrocity, whispered among hunters and hidden in old letters. Now we drift further back to an event so taboo that even the healing church erased all mention of it. In a remote fishing hamlet by a gray sea, one of the most profound tragedies of the Bloodborne world took place. The fate of Kos and the fishing hamlet. It began when the carcass of a great one, Kos or Kosm, washed up on the shores of a humble village of fishers. The villagers, simple folk, revered Kos as a deity from the sea. Her washed-up corpse emanated a cosmic aura that transformed the hamlet's inhabitants into fish-like hybrids, their eyes bulging and scales growing, as if touched by Kos's ebbing Great One power. Hearing rumors of this, Master Willem of Byrgenwerth dispatched hunters and scholars to investigate, Gehrman and Lady Maria among them. Bloodborne.fandom.com. The Byrgenwerth contingent descended on the peaceful fishing hamlet and committed an unspeakable slaughter. They hunted the villagers as if they were beasts, brutally cutting open their skulls in search of eyes and whatever eldritch secrets Kos had bestowed. The invaders didn't spare anyone. Even the village priest, mutating but gentle, was likely gutted and left hanging. Whether the scholars also caused Kos's death is uncertain. Some say Kos was already dead, others that she was murdered on that beach. What is sure is that the hunters desecrated Kos's remains. They likely cut into the Great One's womb to retrieve her unborn orphan and any cords or fluid that might grant insight. This blasphemous violation of a Great One and her devoted people was a crime that would not go unanswered. With her dying breath, Kos cursed the blood-stained hunters. The villagers' final rattle, or perhaps Kos's own voice, rang out, "Curse the fiends, their children too, and their children forever true." In the lore it said, from the vantage of the cosmic planes, Kos laid a curse upon the hunters, those like the ones that desecrated her and the villagers, seeking to relish blood and eyes, would be cast into the hunter's nightmare. Thus was born the hunter's nightmare, a pocket dimension of endless punishment, a hell for all hunters who become blood drunk. From that day on, whenever a hunter succumbed too deeply to bloodlust, they would vanish from the waking world and awaken in the nightmare, doomed to hunt and be hunted by twisted beasts and failed comrades for eternity. The fishing hamlet's curse seeped even into the hearts of its perpetrators. Lady Maria, who had taken part in the massacre, was so guilt-ridden by the atrocity that she abandoned her weapons. She threw her beloved Rakuyo blade down a well, unable to face the blood she'd spilled. Maria left the waking world entirely, later serving as keeper of the research hall in the hunter's nightmare, as if trying to atone by caring for its patients. Lawrence, we learn, was also involved in the raid. His punishment was fitting. In the hunter's nightmare, Lawrence's beastly spirit is forever burning in an endless flame, mirroring the burning village and his own burning ambition. All cursed hunters are trapped in that nightmare realm. There one can encounter Ludwig, transformed into a horrific horse-like beast for his sanguine sins, and Simon the Harrowed, who seeks to end the nightmare by revealing the truth. For ages, the hunter's nightmare persisted, hidden from the real world as an open wound in the astral realm. Only much later does a hunter from outside, the good hunter of the Old Hunters DLC, enter that nightmare, guided by a blood-soaked Lawrence skull to release those souls. In that accursed dream, they confront the living memory of Lady Maria and eventually the orphan of Kos, a shrieking, emaciated infant, great one, born from Kos's corpse in the nightmare, embodying all of Kos's wrath. When the orphan of Kos is finally defeated by the hunter, a quiet descends upon the sea. It is unclear why killing the orphan breaks the curse. One can only wonder that it must be the one thing to grant peace and respite to the miserable creature. The dark skies clear, and the spirit of Kos seems to forgive, or at least to fall silent. The hunter's nightmare begins to recede, its purpose fulfilled. Gehrman, sleeping in the dream, lets out a calm sigh, as if some burden on his soul was eased. The Fishing Hamlet's nightmare had finally ended, but its memory lives on as a caution. The greatest atrocity was not the work of beasts, but of human hunters in pursuit of forbidden eyes. Stepping back into the cold air of the waking world, we gather these buried truths. The healing church, for all its talk of salvation, perpetrated terrible deeds to hide its mistakes. It burned old Yharnam, possibly after causing the plague there. It wiped out Cainhurst's nobility in a frenzy of righteousness. Its mensis scholars kidnapped innocents and unleashed a blood-red nightmare upon Yharnam, and its Byrgenwerth forebears butchered a village and offended the cosmos itself, earning eternal condemnation. Each of these crimes was swept under the rug, left as an unspeakable secret. The average Yharnam citizen, peering out from behind a bolted door on a hunter's night, might blame only the beasts or imagine the church a savior, but the full picture is far darker. The beasts, the curses, the unending night of the hunt, they are all consequences of human folly, greed, and the thirst for power that started with Lawrence's first vial of old blood. In these forgotten places, the veils are lifted. We see the defiled skulls in the Hamlet well, the ashen bones in old Yharnam, the fallen royalty in Cainhurst's throne room, the mad idiocy of Mikolash's cage. These are Yharnam's sins, and ours as hunters to inherit. Listen closely, and you can still hear the whispers of the old ones in these ruins, fragments of prayer, pleas for forgiveness or curses spat through broken teeth. But dawn is approaching. Let us leave these dark corners in peace. We have faced the worst of this world's nightmares. Now only the final truth of the hunter's dream remains, the endings to this accursed tale, and what gentle dawn might come after. Part 5. Endings and Theories. All hunts must eventually end, and in the hunter's dream there comes a moment of decision, a way to finally break the cycle of night. According to hidden lore, there are 3 possible endings to the hunter's long nightmare, each with its own meaning. I will describe them to you in turn, as if in a dream within this whisper, so that you may envision how the story of Bloodborne concludes. The first ending is often seen as the acceptance or release. In this ending, Yharnam Sunrise, the weary hunter, chooses to accept Gehrman's offer of mercy. In the pre-dawn hush under the great tree, Gehrman gently rises from his wheelchair, draws a scythe, and thanks the hunter for their service. With one swift, painless stroke, he beheads the hunter, freeing them from the dream's bondage. The next moment, the hunter awakens back in the real Yharnam, lying in the street as the sun rises over the horizon. The night of the hunt is over. The terrors of the dark are gone, as if they were only a bad dream. Normal folk are emerging from their homes to a new morning. The hunter, now just an ordinary person, has no memory of the nightmare. They have escaped the horror at the cost of forgetting it entirely. In the desolate hunter's dream, the doll watches Gehrman's lantern go out and softly says goodbye. "Farewell, good hunter. May you find your worth in the waking world," she whispers. This is the bittersweet mercy ending. The hunter lives out their life, free of curse, but the deeper truths of the dream slip from their mind like fog in sunlight. Perhaps this is a kinder fate than most. After all, not everyone truly wants to know the cosmic secrets. Sometimes a peaceful dawn and human life are reward enough. The second ending is refusal, which leads to a new imprisonment. In this ending, often called honoring wishes, the hunter, upon being offered mercy by Gehrman, refuses to be killed. They have come too far to simply forget. Gehrman, sorrowful but resolute, engages the hunter in a climactic duel beneath the moonlit tree. After a fierce struggle of whirling blades and gunshots, Gehrman is defeated and collapses, finally freed from his long servitude. But victory is short-lived. From the darkness beyond the dream sky, the moon presence itself descends, a spindly, skeletal great one wreathed in mist. The moon presence grabs the hunter in a monstrous embrace and binds them to the dream in Gehrman's place. In an instant, the hunter loses motion, enslaved in a new wheelchair as the moon presence is captive. When time resumes, we see the hunter now sitting in Gehrman's old spot in the workshop, limp and doll-like. The moon presence vanishes, and the doll approaches the new dream-bound hunter. With gentle care, she wheels them to the tree, just as she once did for Gehrman. And so the hunt begins again, she says softly, as if comforting a child. The implication is clear. By defying Gehrman, the hunter has taken on Gehrman's cursed role. The night goes on, and a new guardian of the dream, the player's character, must oversee the next cycle of hunters who will fight and die. This ending is tragic in its own way. The hunter gained truth and defied submission, but became chained to an endless night. Some interpret this as the hunter's refusal to let go of the hunt, reflecting a personal obsession or duty that ultimately traps them. The dream remains intact, and the blood moon presumably will rise again when another hunter is chosen. The third and final ending is the transcendence ending, often considered the hidden true ending. Achieving it requires unusual insight, consuming 3 pieces of umbilical cord, the metaphysical remnants of Great One pregnancies, to prepare oneself for a higher plane. If the hunter has done so, then when they defeat Gehrman and the moon presence swoops down, a remarkable thing happens. The hunter resists the moon presence's control. The infuriated Great One attacks the hunter, and a final battle ensues against the moon presence itself. In a feat that echoes myth, the hunter vanquishes the moon presence, slaying, or at least dispersing, the very Great One that orchestrated the hunt. What follows is a scene of poetic ascension. With the moon presence gone, the hunter's body is enveloped in a blinding light and begins to metamorphose. They are reborn as a tiny, slug-like infant Great One. In this ending, titled Childhood's Beginning, the hunter transcends their humanity entirely. The doll steps forward and lovingly picks up the small, squirming infant Great One that the hunter has become. "Oh, good hunter," she coos, cradling the new Great One in her arms. Your eyes are yet to open. ****. The image is poignant. The doll will care for this infant Great One as a mother would, her voice full of pride and affection. The dream, devoid of Gehrman and the moon presence, catches fire and begins to crumble, implying that the hunter's dream is collapsing now that its master is gone. But the infant Great One, the new being that was once the hunter, will live on under the doll's protection in the waking world as an ascended being beyond the reach of the curse. The night of the hunt finally ends. This ending can be seen as a victory of knowledge and evolution. The hunter took the burden of insight. The umbilical cords are concentrated Great One wisdom and was rewarded by evolving into a higher form of life. It also fulfills the cosmic law we discussed. A Great One lost its child and yearned for a surrogate, and in this ending the hunter becomes that child, a Great One infant that will carry on the cycle in some new way. It's a strange, bittersweet triumph, humanity's childhood's beginning, as the title says, suggesting the hunter is like a newborn Great One, brimming with potential eyes and wisdom, yet innocent as a baby. Now, let us gently unravel the symbolism and meaning behind these endings and the hunt itself. Bloodborne's lore is layered in metaphor and cosmic horror themes, and each ending offers a lens through which to interpret the hunter's journey. Yharnam Sunrise, the first ending, symbolizes acceptance and the merciful ignorance of waking from a bad dream. The hunter is rewarded with normalcy, a return to the ordinary human world. One might read this as the hunter rejecting the dangerous pursuit of forbidden knowledge. They choose life as an ordinary person, perhaps even forgetting the night's atrocities. The doll's farewell, "May you find your worth in the waking world," underscores this interpretation. It implies that a normal human life, free of eldritch nightmares, still has value and meaning. In a way, this ending can be seen as defeat, since the Great Ones and the dream persist, but also as a personal victory for the hunter's humanity. After all the horrors, they awaken to a new morning, sanity intact. Was it a dream, or did it really happen? The game leaves that unanswered, adding to the eerie atmosphere. This is the bittersweet, happy ending on a personal level. The nightmare ends for the hunter, even if Yharnam's future remains uncertain. Honoring wishes, the second ending embodies the cyclical nature of despair and the trap of duty. The hunter defies Gehrman but ends up replacing him. This speaks to a theme of inescapable fate, a common trope in cosmic horror. Despite all the hunter's prowess, they fall victim to the moon presence's design, showing that rejecting a merciful death might lead to a worse fate. Eternal servitude. The cycle of the hunt is shown to continue unabated. The doll's remark that a new hunt will begin indicates that the world remains in its cursed loop. Symbolically, this ending could suggest that clinging to the hero's role or refusing to let go of the hunt is a trap. The hunter's wish to continue fighting only perpetuates the nightmare. Many interpret this ending as a commentary on obsession. The hunter cannot let go of the nightmare and thus becomes part of it. The world is not saved, only the faces have changed. It's a darker commentary on self-sacrifice too. The hunter takes on the burden that Gehrman bore, allowing their comrades and the doll to be free while they shoulder the endless hunt. Notice that in this ending, dawn never comes. The dream remains. and presumably the blood moon will hang over Yharnam again. It's a Pyrrhic outcome, emphasizing that without breaking the underlying curse, nothing truly ends. Childhood's beginning, the third ending, is laden with the most complex symbolism. The hunter, by defeating the moon presence and becoming a Great One infant, breaks the cycle decisively. Dawn arrives, the dream is burning down, which implies sunrise in the real world, and the hunt is over. This ending represents transcendence. The hunter moves beyond the human plane entirely. In doing so, they fulfill the hopes of Master Willem and the choir. The hunter successfully lined their brain with eyes via insight and ascended to meet the Great Ones on their level. There's an element of rebirth and even hope here. The title, Childhood's Beginning, suggests that this infant Great One, formerly the hunter, is the start of something new, perhaps a new Great One that might be more benevolent, or a new phase of existence that breaks from the bloody past. The doll becoming a caregiver, she calls the player, "Dear, oh dear, are you cold?" in a concerned, motherly way. Plays into the theme that every Great One seeks a surrogate child. In this case, the doll becomes the surrogate mother to the hunter-turned-infant, a touching inversion where a creation of humans, the doll, nurtures the next evolution of humanity, the new Great One. Some fans theorize that this infant Great One could eventually grow and perhaps influence the world in a different, kinder way. But that is speculation. The symbolism is also about liberation. By slaying the moon presence, the hunter destroyed the entity driving the hunt. In essence, the curse is lifted at its root. Yharnam might finally see a lasting dawn free of beasts. However, the cost was the hunter's humanity. They can no longer live as a human, having become something altogether other. It's a classic Lovecraftian trope. Ultimate knowledge and victory requires sacrificing one's human self. Yet Bloodborne frames it almost optimistically as a new beginning rather than just a loss. The tiny Great One in the doll's arms is vulnerable but potentially enlightened and pure, signifying a hopeful spark that after the nightmare, something innocent remains. Beyond the endings themselves, the world of Bloodborne invites many theories and interpretations. The nature of the hunter's dream is one such mystery. Was it all literally happening, or could the entire game's events be a metaphorical dream the hunter had during transfusion? The game's introduction shows the hunter receiving pale blood transfusion and blacking out, then awakening in the clinic to beasts, a structure that suggests a dreamlike experience. However, the evidence of the world, like the sunrise ending implying life continues, leans toward the events being real, with the dream as a connected otherworld. The pale blood itself is a subject of theory. A note in the lecture building reads, "The nameless moon presence was beckoned by Lawrence and his associates, pale blood." This implies that pale blood refers to the moon presence or the act of summoning it. The hunter's initial quest was to seek pale blood to transcend the hunt, meaning the hunter was unknowingly seeking the moon presence or its blood to escape the nightmare. Indeed, by consuming the umbilical cords, which are associated with pale blood, and overcoming the moon presence, the hunter achieved escape. This ties into a fan theory that pale blood was the rare blood of a Great One needed to see the dream and ultimately break free of it. Another theory centers on the moon presence's motive. The note, "Hunt the Great Ones," found in Mences's lecture building implies the moon presence wanted the hunter to kill other great ones. Perhaps it saw the Scourge of Beasts caused by Great One blood and Murgo's ongoing influence as threats and used hunters to eliminate them. If so, Gehrman and the player were guided to slay Murgo and even Rom indirectly to end those nightmares, essentially doing the moon presence's bidding to clean up the mess made by humans and other great ones. In that light, the second ending, where the hunt continues, could mean the moon presence wasn't fully done. Perhaps other great ones or sources of Scourge remained, so it trapped a new hunter to keep cleaning house. The third ending, where the hunter kills the moon presence, could be seen as breaking a cycle of great ones manipulating humanity. The hunter becomes a great one themselves, possibly a more understanding one given they were once human. It's a twist on Lovecraft. Instead of humanity being insignificant, a human has risen to join the ranks of the gods, maybe even outwitting them. The theme of eyes versus blood as two paths to evolution is central. The endings support that Master Willem's path, eyes, insight, ultimately fares better than Lawrence's. Blood, Lawrence's legacy was the Scourge and his fiery death, whereas the player's insight-fueled ascension, if achieved, is portrayed as breaking the curse. Throughout the journey, insight is the stat that lets you see truth. It lets you hear the infant Murgo's cry and see invisible demons. But too much insight can drive people mad, like the beast-patient survivors who giggle to themselves seeing things others can't. The balance between wisdom and sanity is a delicate one. The hunter's consumption of umbilical cords is effectively consuming forbidden knowledge, a risky act that they manage to harness without losing themselves, culminating in personal ascension rather than madness. And what of Yharnam after the dream ends? What remains after the dream ends, as we ask in our softest voice? If the third ending occurs, presumably the night of the hunt ends for good. The source, moon presence and Murgo, has been dealt with. We see the morning sun in first ending and the dream burning in third ending, both indicating the long night has broken. The ordinary citizens likely awaken, perhaps recalling only a particularly long nightmare. The healing church's influence might collapse with no leadership. Lawrence dead, choir scattered, Mensis gone. Yharnam, battered and blood-soaked, might slowly recover in the daylight, forced to reckon with the horrors that occurred. One dull dialogue in New Game, plus, suggests that a previous hunter who saw the sunrise did indeed find some comfort. Though enchanted by the dream, he remained strong and eventually saw the light of dawn. I pray he found meaning and comfort in the waking world. It implies that living on after the nightmare, even burdened by its memory, can lead to a meaningful life, perhaps cautioning others against the old blood. If the second ending holds, the hunt continues in secret. The world doesn't change, only the names of the hunters do. That would be the bleakest outcome. An indefinite cycle of nights, with Yharnam forever on the brink of the next beast scourge, and no one the wiser. Ultimately, Bloodborne's lore leaves much to the imagination, but one thing is clear. It masterfully intertwines gothic themes of beasts and blood, the fear of our inner savagery, with cosmic, Lovecraftian themes of unfathomable entities and the perilous pursuit of knowledge. The Healing Church's mantra, "Seek the old blood," led to damnation, whereas Byrgenwerth's mantra, "Fear the old blood," was vindicated by the events. The Great Ones, despite their power, mirror human desires. They seek children, form bonds. The doll refers to the moon presence as Flora of the moon of the dream, almost affectionately, and can even be killed. This blurs the line between gods and men in Bloodborne's universe. In a way, the hunt was a crucible that allowed a mere human to ascend to godhood, suggesting an almost hopeful angle that even in a world of cosmic horror, a determined individual can shape fate. And now, dear hunter, we have reached the end of the tale and the edge of dawn. The whispers must fade, and you drift from this realm of nightmares. The beasts are slain for now. The great ones have fallen silent, and the warmth of a new morning glows faintly at the horizon of the waking world. All that remains is a gentle farewell before you open your eyes. Hear the parting words carried on a cool breeze, a final blessing from the doll in the dream, echoing as you depart this trance. Good hunter, may you find your worth in the waking world.